I'm worried there's a great Diet Dr. Pepper shortage. That's why we're missing Shotzi.
Too funny. All righty. Well, let's get this thing rock and rolling. It is 8:03, even though I don't have my glasses on. Yeah, 8:03. Hi, everybody. How y'all doing?
Excellent.
Week 12. We are
Wow.
approaching the halfway point already. You believe that? Wow. Very cool. So let's start off with our usual questions, and then we've got 25 questions. Somebody was a little overzealous in doing some test questions, I'll tell you. Who would that might be?
I have no clue. Paul?
She submitted 10 questions.
Wow.
And then she didn't she didn't put down their answers for them, so I had to go look them up.
Wasn't that the whole point?
No.
No? Uh-oh.
No, that's
Sorry.
fine. That's fine. It didn't take long. Control F. Boom. There it is.
Fast enough. Cool.
Exactly. So raise your hand if you finished your reading.
Yep.
Raise your hand if you finished your reading today. Marshall, did you finish yours ahead of time?
Actually, this time I did.
Nice.
Finished it yesterday.
Very cool. Paul, when did you finish yours? Your microphone's not on, Paul.
Yesterday evening.
Very cool. Very cool.
You guys.
I'm telling you, they must not have a life. That's all I got to say. Right, Aisha?
That's
I was on
what it is.
vacation, so I have to do the whole reading in 1 or 2 days.
Yeah, next weekend's going to be really bad because we're harvesting 25 chickens on Saturday. So by the time I get done doing that and then cleaning up the yard, I guarantee you Sunday, I'm not going to want to crack a book. I guarantee it. Guarantee it. So this week, the reading was kind of, I would say, on a difficulty scale, on a scale of 1 to 100, about 50. We closed out bonding and grounding, went into power distribution. A lot of the stuff in power distribution stuff I kind of already knew, but there was still a lot of stuff in there that I was not aware of. I wasn't aware there were so many different types of transformers and backup power systems. Holy Toledo. That was my challenge for the week because, it was all those things. And then having that, they had a lot of charge. It seemed I was cruising along in my reading until about 50% of the way through, 60% of the way through, and then all of a sudden, it just my reading just slowed to a crawl. So let's go around. Paul, since you haven't been around, what was your challenges this week?
It's like in like the power distribution stuff. I guess in a way, like just caring, being like, there was a lot of stuff that I don't do or deal with on a day-to-day, and I was like, I want to like understand this and retain it for the tests, but being like, wow, like I don't think I'm ever going to actually use this afterwards. Actually, that was most of the chapter for me.
Please get her out of here. Thank you. I'm sorry. My dog's over here trying to gnaw on my arm. So my wife's going to take her out of the room and put her in a crate. You wouldn't believe how big a dog has gotten since y'all seen her last. I'm with you there because as I was reading through it, the thought crossed my mind. This is not really stuff that telecommunications Rcdd is really going to. I understand being aware of it, but they're really not going to be necessarily, knee deep in it, designing it. That's an electrical engineer doing that kind of stuff.
Yep.
That was my feelings when I was reading the power distribution sections, or some of it. I mean, Ohm's law, no, we need to know that, and then the lightning stuff, we need to know that as well. But yeah, the power issue, and we do need to know the backup stuff, although that section was really, again, talking about power, the n plus 1, n plus 2, 2n plus 1. And yeah, but that's just good news is, Aisha, that should have been kind of like almost a review for you, right?
Yes, that's why I got like 10 questions for me. Was the first portion was really tough. Like the, if you read like the concepts, the principles,
Right.
the first 2 pages. But when you go with the class, like n plus 1 and 2 n's, that was like a review for me, as you said, because I read the CDC manual, and they have like a long chapter just for power distribution. So
Right.
it's like 400 pages. I'm not 400, like 100 pages just for that. So I'm really familiar with that, at least.
Yep. Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, review. So This time when I read in the DC manual, I was taking my class, I was totally lost. This time I was at least somewhat more familiar with it, and it kind of made a little more sense to me this time. But that's just the way that I'm wired. Sometimes I got to read something 3 or 4 times before it finally sinks in this thick skull. So yeah, actually, did you tell us what your challenges was this week in the reading?
So the first section I will probably say, like, when it comes to the Ohm's laws, is we're all quite familiar with that, but all the generator, transformer, and all that was kind of hard to write. All the equations, I don't think I remember any of that. Besides the Ohm's law. So that just trying to figure out how to remember or associate all the formulas.
Right. Yeah. I was when I was going through this, I was like, how are they going to memorize this stuff for a test? That's going to be a challenge. Marshall, what challenges did you have this week?
So I've been, as I'm reading the chapters, I'm filling out index cards, and sometimes I'll get sidetracked and I'll spend too much time on a certain section just because I'm filling out index cards. It just takes up, a lot more time. So, instead of me being able to complete, the reading in, like, let's say 2 hours or an hour and a half, it's taking me a lot longer. So I'm just trying to figure out a better way to go about it.
Unless you're running out of time and you're not getting your reading done, does it matter if it takes you 3 hours or 4 hours? Because what you're doing is you're really investing your time up front, right? Because when you get done doing the reading, then you'll have the cards to study off of. So you come out ahead.
Yeah, I'll memorize it. I'll remember the information better if I'm actually writing it out.
Yes.
So that's just the way my mind works.
That's the way a lot of people's minds work. I've said this before. The more senses you can incorporate that learning process, write stuff down and then you regurgitate and have something quiz you back and put you. That's why people in our industry are tactile learners, right? The more sense we can incorporate, the better chances we can have of retaining it. So let's talk about our aha moments. When you're reading through the book, this chapter, what did you read that you just kind of said, aha, now that makes sense to me? So Paul, start off with you.
I don't have one that comes to mind.
Okay. Yeah, Aisha?
Not really. I was just really surprised on how good the Big C manuals are with each other. Like whatever I wrote on the DCDC manual was exactly the same here. So it was good to see that at least they're on the same page.
What year was the DCDC published?
2019.
2019?
Yeah,
I think
year.
Yeah, and this came out at the beginning of 2020. So yeah. That they should match. I've sat on committees to help write manuals, and I've been a part of editorial review meetings to help finalize stuff, and that happens. I mean, one thing gets published, and then next thing you know, they're working on another publication, and it doesn't get published for like another year, and then you got 2 manuals that say 2 different things, and
right.
Then you end up with errata sheets and all other kinds of fun stuff. So, yeah, Marshall, anything that you read this week that you just kind of went, oh, that makes sense to me?
Page 835, which is 8-24. I see this a lot, especially in small IDFs, with like 2 or 3 racks. The rack bonding conductor, instead of it being a home run straight from the rack to the PBB or SBB, they'll daisy chain them.
Yeah, and you don't want to daisy chain them because that's more connections. That's going to be obviously more money in connectors, more labor, but also it's more potential points for failure. So it should be one continuous conductor to the furthest rack. And then each rack, you're going to take not a split bolt, but an irreversible compression style fitting. You're going to crimp it on. And then the best way to actually do it is to take that bonding conductor all the way down to the bottom of the rack and then attach it, not attach it to the top, especially if you're doing shielded. If you're not doing shielded, then you can just go straight to the top. And that way, if for example, if you do it that way, if somebody removes the middle rack, the end rack still has its connection to the earth, right? Yep. Now, another method you could do this and is you could run an individual bonded conductor to each rack. But my aha moment was, let me flip down to it really quickly. It was in the verbiage right underneath of that. Actually, I'm sorry, it was on the next page. Cable tray and bonding, and it was talking about the bonding the cable trays, right? So traditionally, I've done projects where customers wanted each section of ladder rack have its own bonding conductor going back to the bus bar, which I always thought was an overkill, but I thought it was okay. They say the best way to actually do is run a continuous conductor through the rack, and then as it goes, through the tray, and then at each section, bond that backbone to the tray. So it's one continuous conductor. But in the second half of the paragraph, it was talking about the individual runs. It says, however, the use of individual runs of telecommunications bonding conductors for each individual sections of tray should be avoided. Avoided. I've been telling people for 10 years that was okay. Should be avoided to prevent the varying lengths of telecom bonded conductors within the cable trays from becoming a source of voltage, ultimately amperage due to the impedance differences. And once I read that, I was like, the bell, ding, 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 ding. That makes sense. Because here you have, if you actually look at the diagram on the page that you were talking about, you have 3 different bonding conductors that are 3 different sizes or 3 different lengths. So once I read that, I was like, that makes absolute sense. Wait, I can't wait to teach my class tomorrow to tell the people that. Right. So, okay. Resources. Paul, did you find any resources you wanted to share with the group? Okay. Yeah, Aisha, how about you?
I think I found a few videos in YouTube, and I think it's a PDF that Big C published a few years ago about the new terminology using for the TDMM when it comes to the naming of equipment, like primary bus bar and so on. So I'm gonna share that with you after after the session.
Just email to me after today, and then after the study session, and when I post the video on the TDMM study page, I'll put all those resources there for everybody. Marshall, did you find any resources that you'd like to share?
No, nothing really outside of the TDMM. I went into like a few data center websites for like, digital realty. They were talking about redundancy as well, but it's nothing in addition to what the TDMM has to say.
Right, and that's one of the reasons why I got to get on top of my game, and I've got to do my reading on the weekend, because when I do it on the weekend, I'm just silencing my phone because it was beeping. My LinkedIn post today with my interview with Chris Hobbs is blowing up. 4 different people have shared it, and it's getting all kinds of traction. So my LinkedIn's just ding, 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 ding. Anyways, my ADD just kicked in. What was I talking about?
Reading on the weekends.
Resources.
Oh, yes. Thank you. I got to read on the weekends because that way I have time to look up resources and stuff, because I did my reading today. Thank God I didn't have a class today. And so I did the majority of my reading today, which, it counts towards my job. I'm learning for my job too. Right. And then I did the test question stuff, and then I got done. It was like 3:30. I was like, holy cow. So I need to get it done on the weekend. So that way, maybe Monday night, as my wife is watching Good Girls, I can be, actually, I watch it too. It's actually a pretty interesting series. If you don't watch it, it's called Good Girls. It's on Netflix. It's about these 3 housewives that become criminals. And they're robbing banks and all kinds of stuff, counterfeit money. It's actually pretty good. The way they film it kind of reminds me a little bit of Breaking Bad. But anyways, that's a whole different subject. So that way I can find resources too, because, it does help as you can probably tell us, because she's the one who's most consistent finding resources. It helps. It definitely helps.
It's easy to remember when you have like at least for me, like a graphical image or a picture of whatever concept. For me, it's easier to remember. So that's why I look for videos or PDFs or whatever with colors, because Big C doesn't have any colors. Right. Sadly.
Yeah. No, I agree with that 100%. Their manuals are all black and white. That's one thing I like about our manuals. This is one of our student manuals. Look at that. Color.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's color inside.
I love it.
Yeah.
Big C's by black, white, or gray.
Yeah. That's kind of boring. And when I was talking to Chris, he was talking about teaching, and he says it's not death by PowerPoint. We do videos and activities and exercise. So you would think if they're doing that, you know why they don't do that? It just hit me. The cost. Color printing is like 3 times the cost of black and white printing. That book I just showed you, it cost us, and you don't know this, it cost us $22 to print each one of those books. $22. So when you sign up and you come to the 11 class or whatever as a student, we give you one of those and we give you a student kit. The book and the kit together run about $60, $65 with the stuff in it. So, yeah. Okay, new question. This is a new one I've never asked before. What can you do to be 10% better for next week? What can you do to be 10% better for next week? And I'll start off with that. That gives you guys some time to think about that. What can I do to be 10% better? You know what I'm going to do? Because my wife and I just started doing this recently over the last few weeks. She's looking at me, oh, he's talking about me. Alexa, we use it for everything, right? So we'll like for example, when we put these in the refrigerator, because they were in the spare bedroom, they were hot. So we threw in the freezer. Well, what happens to beer if you put it in the freezer and you forget about it? Right? So what do we do? Alexa, tell me in 30 minutes, get the beer out of the refrigerator. That's just everything. I can't hear you. So I think what I'm going to do is, as soon as I get off this, I'm going to tell Alexa to remind me what time we slaughtering the chickens on Saturday, baby. Something 8 a.m. till 2. So I'm going to tell her, remind me at 4 o'clock on Saturday to do my reading. That's my small little effort that I'm going to do to be a little bit 10% better. Remember, the incremental steps are easy to do, right? So 10% should be easy. Paul, what are you going to do to be 10% better for your reading next week?
I'm going to get my reading done early. I'm off on a vacation for Friday through Monday. So
nice.
if I don't get it done beforehand,
here's accountability. What day are you going to get it done by? I'm going to write it down. I'm going to ask you next week.
I'm going to get 75% of it done by Friday, before Friday.
75 before or by Friday?
Before.
You kind of said both. Before. Okay. I'm just doing this just to be, like you have accountability partners, right? That's all this is. So on next week, I mean, it's not like I'm going to kick you out of the group because you didn't get 75% of your reading done before Friday, right? But if you know that I'm going to ask you about it, that increases the chances that you're going to do it, isn't it, Paul? Yeah. Aisha, what are you going to do to be 10% better?
I think I'm gonna create more flashcards like Marshall, and also something that I think that it helps is create more questions from the book. And I use a software called Tdmm, where you can input your questions, and later on you can use your phone or computer and you can review your questions. You can do like quizzes or the question that you created.
Now, have you guys been using the practice tests that I have online? I haven't updated them in a while.
So that's something that we can also use.
Hey, let me ask you this. Do you guys mind if I use your questions to put in that exam to help other people? The next class is down the road.
Not at all.
Yep.
Mars,
not at all.
you okay with that? Okay, cool. I'm going to start doing that then. I have been just deleting them because, you guys generate those questions. I'm like, I can't use their questions, not because they're not good, just because they came up with those questions and there's a whole copyright thing there, and I just want to stay away from it. So I'm gonna start using your questions from now on. And if you want to do, I know we do 2 questions, I think. If you want to be like Yaisha and do 10, I am not going to stop you. I'll appreciate it. That gives us more questions to review in this section, and then also they will go into the online chapters as well. So there you go, Mr. Marshall. What are you going to do to be 10% better?
Instead of taking a nap on the train going to work, I'll try to read a few pages on my iPhone.
Okay. So you're going to read on the train. Okay. All right. I'm just jotting it down so I can ask you. Okay. There we go. Remember, I always said, what are the 3 most important things in our industry? Documentation, and documentation. If it's not written down,
Never happened.
Never happens.
Exist. Exactly right. Exactly right. All righty. You guys ready for some questions?
Can I ask you something, guys, before we jump into questions?
Absolutely.
a few weeks ago, I had a coworker who asked me to go into the Big C TDMM or the DCDC to check if there were any code requirement for passive equipment, if they need to be bounded, grounded and bounded or not. So we couldn't find anything in the TDMN for passive equipment. Do you have any idea?
What kind of passive equipment was he specifically talking about? Or they specifically?
I think I can't remember.
Because passive equipment's a wide range. A shielded
Said it
patch
was
panel
too.
is passive equipment. That's got to be bonded to a ground. A UTP panel, although technically you're not bonding the panel to a ground, you're bonding the rack to a ground, which is essentially bonding the UTP panel to a ground. So it kind of really depends on which piece of, and be careful when people, here's what's going to happen. This is a piece of advice as you guys, when the people find out you're reading the TDMM and you're getting smarter and you pass your test, they're going to start asking you questions, right? And I had this question asked to me today in the Slack channel on Low Voltage Nation. And actually it was asked a couple of days ago. I just saw it today. Somebody, one of the technicians came across another installer. I don't know if the installer was a electrician or not, but I'm assuming it was an electrician just based on what happened. They used conduit straps to support their cables in the ceiling. Conduit straps, you know, the half C things, right? So he confronted the person and said, that's not right per code. And this is why I think it's an electrician. They came back and said, yo, yes, it is. It's 330.3. Look it up. That's why I think it was an electrician, right? Because a low voltage person is not going to tell you the specific piece in the code book to go to. And matter of fact, I had to actually go look up 330.3 because I don't remember reading that. And I read it, and sure enough, although it doesn't list conduit straps. Here's the issue. So what the guy was really looking for was he wanting me to tell him where the code book says you can't use conduit straps to support cables in the ceiling. The code book's not going to say that, right? Two reasons. One, the code book is for safety and minimum quality construction, right? So the real answer that person was looking for was not what the code says, but what the standards and the best practices published by Bixby say. So technically what that electrician did is correct because it says in that paragraph 330.3 that you can use staples, tie wraps, all kinds of other fun stuff. So technically it is within the code, but for high performance cable, it may not necessarily be the best way to support that cable because a conduit strap is what? It's 1/2 inch wide, maybe, if that. Now, if you have a big bundle of cables going through that, and because of the way the cable crushes the cables on the bottom, those cables won't perform. So technically, yes, it was per code, but best practice says no, you really shouldn't use it. And then the guy asked me, well, where does it say that in the where does it say that in the standards and where does it say that in Bixby's books? I'm like, well, I don't have access to the standards today, but I can look it up in the TDMM, and I found a paragraph that said that the narrow distances can affect the performance of cable. So don't be so quick to answer. My point is, when people start asking you guys questions, don't be so quick to answer. Stop and think for a minute, right? And really analyze that question and what are they really asking? Because he was just asking me, was it code compliant? Yes, it's code compliant, but it's not a best practice. So the answer wasn't just as simple. And I actually got to shoot the guy a message and ask him if I can use it for Thursday nights after hours live stream because it was a great question. Great question. Okay. Anything else before we start the polls?
Yeah, I got one question.
Yes.
On page 9-13, the equation they're using for voltage drop.
Do you have a PDF number for that by any chance?
I don't have the PDF. Sorry.
All right, no problem. I found it. 9-13.
Oh, I found some color.
Yay!
What? You found some color?
Yeah, they have some color over there.
Yeah, just one page.
Oh yeah, that round circle thing. I just passed by it. Well, there you go. Yeah, you should. There was their.
Out of 2,000 pages, one with color. Come on.
There you go. So, what was your question, Paul?
What is D, the big capital D, in that equation?
Let me read this real quick. I'll look at this, but I don't remember what the D was. What's the paragraph above it talk about? The cross-sectional area.
They define some variables above, but
K equals the specific resistance of the conductor materials. That's 0.3 meters for a diameter of 1 mil. Maybe it's the diameter, right? 12 for circuits with load of 50% allow energy. You know what I could, you know, what I'm gonna do, Paul? I have a friend who's a PE, and I'm gonna ask him about this
Okay.
and see what he says. I almost asked him if he wanted to be on tonight as a guest because we were talking about power distribution, but I totally forgot and got wound up doing other things. So let me just make a note of that. So equation on 9-13. What is the D? And what I might end up doing, if it's really complex, I might just do a Zoom call with them and record it, and then also put that on the TDM study page.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yep,
Yeah,
no problem. No problem. See, it's not what you know, it's who you know. All righty.
Chuck, I had one other question. Hopefully,
Yes,
I
sir.
can keep it quick. It was a few pages back on 9-8.
Okay.
The very first sentence, they're saying Ohm's laws always applies to DC circuits, but only applies to AC circuits that are purely resistive. I guess I thought that was a bunch of crap. I was like, I think it applies to all AC circuits as well.
9-8.
And I was wondering if anybody else could back me up or tell me that I'm full of it.
Circuits, but only applies to AC circuits that are purely resistive.
Yeah, I thought, you know, a circuit that has inductive or capacitive elements, like Ohm's law still applies. Like the math is a little different, but
Right. Now I've always used Ohm's law in low voltage for doing some equations for design and stuff, but I don't remember it being just for purely resistive or not. I'm going to have to do some research on that one too.
okay.
See, yeah, power's not my strong point, as you can tell. So Ohm's law for resistive. Okay, there we go. Okay. Any other questions? All righty.
I have one more.
Okay, sure. Shoot. Hope it's something I have the answer to.
Page 880. What does N stand for?
880?
Yeah. When it's talking about N plus 1, N plus 2.
Oh, need.
Need.
Is that,
Yeah,
The
need.
baseline need.
yep.
Yes.
I've read that there, but I always thought it meant normal.
No, it means need.
Yeah. I
So
wonder
for
where I got
example,
normal from.
and it can be anything. So for in a data center role, if you need if you've done your bandwidth calculation and you figure you need a 12 strand, the 12 strand would be the N. If you want to do
Yep.
redundancy, it would be N plus 1. That's 2 12 strands, and then so on and so forth.
I have a nice example about the N
Go ahead, give it to us.
and how you can like kind of memorize that. So imagine that we are 4 people here, and I want to buy 4 donuts, 1 donut for each one. So 4 will be the need, the baseline need. If you want to have 5 donuts, that will be N plus 1, because you have the need, which is 4 need, and then you will have 1 extra donut for an extra people, and so on. So you have, if you will go to buy 8 donuts, that will be 2N, because you have double of the amount of need. So it's a kind of a way to memorize that.
Yep.
If you know a donut, that can apply to beers or, I don't know, bagels, whatever you like.
I like donuts.
Okay, good.
I like the donuts example.
Me too. So that's an easy way to remember that.
Very cool. Any other questions? Going once, going twice. Okay. All righty. Yeah, Aisha, since you gave us so many test questions, if you get called, you got to answer your own test question. That's how that's going to work. So hopefully you remember your test questions.
Uh-oh.
So since Marshall was here last week, Paul, we're going to start off with you. So here's question number 1. And this one is from Yaisha.
V equals IR.
Everybody agree?
Yep.
Very good. Yes. Winner, chicken dinner. All right. Now you get to pick somebody.
Let's go to Marshall.
Marshall. The formula for Ohm's law always applies to AC circuits.
False.
Okay. Waiting for everybody. Yep. Very good. Yes. We just read that too.
We were discussing that one. So
Just discussed
Cool.
it. Yes. Marshall, you get to pick the next person.
Yaisha.
Okay, Aisha, this is your question, so you better not get it wrong. In an AC circuit with blank reactance, current leads voltage.
capacitive. So
Okay. Well, that's got to be right because it's her test question, right?
it better be right.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I did look that one up. So you get to pick the next one.
Let's go with Paul.
Mr.
Go that
Paul,
way.
this one is yours. Power line noise that is present between phase and ground is categorized what kind of noise?
Ooh, I was gonna say it was let's see, normal and differ. Let's see, normal is the same as oh man, I'm getting mixed up now. It's not phase. I don't think it's normal. It's whatever one isn't normal. Okay, so between phase and ground. This is gonna be, I'm gonna go in with differential mode.
It is common mode.
Shoot.
Common mode. Okay, so you get to pick the next one.
Marshall.
Marshall, number 5. In order to avoid the need to secure information technology equipment, power cords in place, their length shall be limited to a maximum of what? Which one of those?
Can you pull up the question?
Oh, I didn't launch it. I'm sorry.
Yep.
In order to avoid the need to secure information technology equipment power cords in place, their length shall be limited to what length?
I remember reading this. It's not 2.4, it's not 5. I think it was 15 feet.
Yes, it was 15 feet. 15 feet. Very good. You get to pick the next one, Marshall.
Yaisha.
Stop.
Asia. Question number 6. And this one is a true false. A power distribution unit is a device that has a transformer surge suppression, multi-point ground, patch panel, panel boards, and a monitoring under a single enclosure. True or false?
That's false.
That's right. It's almost like you knew the answer to that one. Okay, who's going to be the next one?
Let's go with Marshall, just to change the order.
All right, Mr. Marshall, you get this one. Oh, it's kind of ironic he gets this one.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. But he's gonna get this one right.
Redundancy is typically expressed through the use of the symbol N, where N is equivalent to the need. Blank redundancy provides 2 additional unit modules, paths, or systems in addition to minimum required to satisfy the base requirements.
Let's see. 2 additional. N plus 2.
Yes, very good. N plus 2.
2 additional donuts.
Or
You're gonna make me break keto to all this talk about donuts, you know that, right?
Paul.
All right, Mr. Paul. Question number 8. Question number 8. When describing power system redundancy is a blank electrical system topology. Although they are multiple distribution paths, only one path is typically activated at any given time. Which class would that be?
I believe that's class 2.
Okay. What does everybody else say? It is class 2.
Send it back to Yaisha.
Yeah, Aisha. She only has 2 more questions. Okay. Question number, what was this? I forgot what question this was. It was 9, right? Rotary uninterrupted power supply units are usually reserved for blank load applications. large, small, depends on the class, or none of the above?
That's really mine, and I do not remember that. That's bad.
You were breaking up. I didn't hear what you said.
I'm gonna go with small. I'm sorry. I was breaking up. Say that I
Yeah.
don't remember that one. I'm gonna go with small, but I honestly do not remember.
Okay. I believe it's large.
Really, it could
Yeah.
be.
Yeah. Let me look it up. Let me look it up real quick. That was question number 9. Question number 9. The correct answer was A. And that was it was large.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay, Aisha, you get to pick the next person.
Let's go with Paul.
Mr. Paul, number 10. Due to chemical losses, what percent more power must be returned to a lead acid battery during recharge than was removed during the discharge phase? 10, 20, 30, or 40%?
10%.
Okay, what's everybody else say? Yes, it is 10%. Okay, you get to pick the next person.
Yaisha.
All right.
Okay, this is not one of your questions, Yaisha. This is actually
Finally.
from Shotzi.
All right. Oh,
Okay.
bonding and grounding.
All righty. Anti-corrosion oxidation compound blank be applied to the lugs and lug surfaces. Is that should, shall, usually, or is recommended?
Should be applied.
Number 11? All right. It's a shall.
Shall.
I believe it's a shall.
Hmm.
Yes, Paul.
I got a question on the one, Chuck. I thought, and maybe I'm thinking of a different section. I thought that was only if they're using two different types, like aluminum and copper was shell, but not necessarily for.
Well, you got to be, there's a different compound when you're attaching two
Okay.
dissimilar metals. But yeah, you should be, anytime you attach a bonding conductor to a bus bar, you really should be using antioxidant.
Okay.
When you think about the 2-hole lug connectors, they're not copper. So those are kind of dissimilar as well. So it is a shall, by the way. All right. Who are you going to pick?
Marshall.
Marshall, number 12. DC power is unidirectional and can change polarity. True or false?
False.
Okay. What's everybody else say? It is false. AC can change directions. Okay. Who are you going to pick?
Paul.
Mr. Paul, question 13. Commercial utility sources provide AC power with defined characteristics such as resistance, frequency, capacitance, or impedance. 13. And you pick frequency?
Mm-hmm.
You picked the right one. Good job. Who are you going to pick?
Marshall.
Okay, Marshall, this is your question, so you better not get it wrong. The pressure's on, buddy. Blank and blank causes a difference between the real power and apparent power required by the load in the AC circuit.
That is inductance and capacitance.
Yep. Good job. You're going to pick?
Yaisha.
So the rest of the questions are mine, so there you go. Yaisha, visual inspections of bonding and grounding systems can usually reveal problems such as loose connections, corrosion, physical damage, system modifications, or all of the above.
All of the above.
What's everybody else say? Waiting for one more answer. The correct answer is all of the above. Good job. Who are you going to pick?
Let's go with Paul.
All right, Mr. Paul, question 16. The project is finished. The technician is not expected to return to the site. The customer should be advised when alterations or damage occurs. They're talking about to the bonding or grounding system. The specific telecommunications bonding should be inspected regularly. Components are required to be labeled, or A and B. Talking specifically about the bonding grounding system. I forgot to put that in there.
I go with A and B.
Yes. Yes. Good job. Good job. Okay, who are you going to pick?
Marshall.
Marshall, question 17. Which installation of the TEBC, oh, there we go, to shielded patch panels will offer the lowest impedance for connections and connector routes?
Telecommunications equipment bonding conductors to shielded patch panel. So I want to keep, all right, so we want to keep the conductors short, and it's shortest, right? Horizontal mounted, bus bar vertically. Back of the bus bar. Vertically mounted rack mounted bus bar.
Good way to work through that. And the reason for that is because on a vertically mounted bus bar, all the cables just literally go the same distance. With the horizontally mounted, the ones at the bottom have longer conductors. Exactly right. Exactly right. Good job. Good way to work through that. Okay, question number 18. Who'd you pick, Marshall?
Yaisha.
Yaisha. This is a true false.
Okay.
When bonding cable tray, installing individual runs of bonded conductors to each section of cable tray should be avoided.
All right, that's true. Good one.
Yes.
I like that one.
Yes. That was my aha moment. I told you. I told you. All right. Who are you going to pick?
Paul.
Okay, Mr. Paul. In outside plant installations, the electrical cable is mounted above the telecommunications cable. One advantage of doing so is what? It reduces EMC issues, intercepts and diverts lightning strikes, places the heaviest cable above all else, or none of the above.
I think it diverts lightning strikes.
Yes. Yes. That was another aha moment. I forgot to mention that one. Yeah. I love that whole section about lightning. I just do. I love that stuff. Who are you picking? Question number 20.
Marshall.
Marshall, question number 20. Whoops. Hold on. Dang it. Relaunch. Relaunching will clear the existing polling results. Yeah, okay. I'm fine with that. There we go. Question 20. NFPA 780 is a risk assessment guide that allows the ICT distribution designers to estimate the risk of loss to lightning. Factors used in this simple calculation includes all of the following except type of the structure or construction, the elevation, the lightning strike consequences, occupancy and contents, or the relative location.
Risk of loss.
So we're looking for the one that does not fit.
Definitely the type of structure, elevation, lightning strike. Risk of loss. Lightning strike consequences.
What's everybody else say?
Thinking.
Remember, we're looking for the one that does not fit. Because remember that's that except word there.
Say.
Can you define like elevation in this? Like, is it the elevation of the building? Or
No, I
is it-
can't because that's the correct answer. That's
That's
the one that I threw in there.
one. That's the one elevation.
That's the one I threw in there. So yeah. So the other ones apply. The elevation was the one I threw in there. And you guys are getting too good. You're getting too good at this. All right. Who are you gonna pick, Marshall?
Yaisha.
Give me 1 second. I have some difficulties.
Not a problem. Yeah, me too. I got a German Shepherd who doesn't want to be in her crate at the moment.
Getting. Let's see. All right. So.
Okay, here's your question.
What we got?
Metal fences installed underground shielded conductors and other conducting structures can affect the zone of protection by diverting strikes away from or into protected zones. True or false?
Say true for that one.
That is correct. That is correct. Good job. Who are you going to pick?
I don't know. Let's go with Paul.
Paul, question number 22. If a cable exposed to lightning is in question, don't consider it exposed and note it as such in the request for quote response. So they're specifically talking about estimating here. You're estimating a job and you have a cable that you're not sure if it's supposed to be considered exposed or not. If you're not sure, do you consider it exposed or don't consider it exposed?
I'm gonna go with false.
That's correct. You should consider it exposed. Always err to the side of safety. Okay, Paul, who are you gonna pick?
Marshall.
Marshall. Okay. A sine wave cycle is one variation of a sine wave from 0 to maximum or positive, back through 0 to the minimum or negative, and then back to 0. The number of times this cycle occurs in 1 second is called a frequency and is expressed in cycles, waves, hertz, or none of the above.
Hertz.
Good job. Yes. I knew that was going to be a softball question when I wrote it. Okay. You get to pick the next person.
Aisha.
Go.
All righty. The frequency for power is typically between what ranges depending on the country? 40.
50.
Go ahead.
50 and 60.
Very good. Yes. 50 to 60. That must be the DC studying you're doing.
Absolutely.
Okay, you get to pick the last person. This is the last
Paul.
question.
You're the one.
All right, Mr. Paul. If two waveforms match each other in electrical degrees, they are said to be sequential
In phase.
phase. What'd you say?
In phase.
In phase. Yes. You guys are getting way too good for my test questions. Because you've been doing this for like the last 3 weeks now. I'm gonna have to start coming up with really tough questions now. Now, so Paul and Yaisha, did you guys watch the videos on the weeks that you were out?
I've not had a chance to yet.
I watched the first one with just Jutsi.
Okay. So when the one that you watched, when I went through the questions, did I put this question up on the screen?
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, I started doing that. I just was wondering if that was good feedback, whether that helps when you're watching the recorded version or not.
It does, because it's easy to visualize and see the
Okay.
options.
All right, I'll continue doing it then. That's what I needed to know. Okay. Anything else?
Chuck,
Question?
I apologize. I didn't have my questions in time.
Oh, it's okay. We had 25. Not a problem. So next week, give me 6. Because that's double. Give me 6 push-ups, mister. Any questions, comments, concerns, complaints? All righty. See everybody next week. Be safe, people.
Yep.
All right.
Take
See you
care.
guys.
Have a good
Bye.
night.
And send me those things, Yaisha.
Will do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.